what's up, everybody? It's been a minute. I have not been doing this for quite some time, so I'm getting back in the groove of recording the podcast and being back in the studio space, trying to get some content out to you guys. I've missed you so much, and if you're new and you're like, "What is this guy talking about?" Uh, Definitely go back and watch some of those other episodes if this is your first episode. And also, if this is your first episode, welcome to the Building the Village podcast family. I'm your host, Dr. Brandon W. Jones, your chief village building strategist. And for everybody else, you know who I am. You know how we do it. What's going on, Village fam? I've missed you all. I hope you all have been doing well. And I hope you're excited. I know I am. As always, if you get something from this episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and spread the word, because that's how, things like this spread around. That's how people get access to this content. That's how the algorithms and all that stuff get boosted. But however you found this, however you choose to share this, I hope that you get something from it. And if you're not already doing so, feel free to follow me on Instagram at bjonesspeaks. That's at BJONESSPEAKS. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook. And of course, if you're tuning in on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share. And if you're not already following me on LinkedIn, please make sure you follow me on LinkedIn at B Jones Speaks. So without further ado, what are we talking about today? Today, we are talking about the blueprint for community, or the blueprint for the village, aka how in the world do we go about creating a community of belonging and care? It's been my mantra as long as I've been doing the Building the Village podcast that people have lost the art of communicating and connecting with each other. The pandemic did not do us any favors because it forced us to isolate for safety reasons. And then as a result, coming out of the pandemic, I know some would say we're still in it, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to that, but coming out and getting back outside and being re-engaged in community and face-to-face gatherings and spaces, one of the things that I found is that we, again, have lost the ability to communicate and talk with each other. And I see this with our children. I see this with our middle school and high school students. And because I work at a university, I also see this on college campuses. And I think it's time we sit down and figure out, how do we get back to the art of connections? And I think in this presentation that I shared with a couple of groups over the last 2 years, I think that there's some content that I have in there that I think can help us with building the blueprint, showing the blueprint, for building community. And I think that in doing that, we can make a difference in the respective villages where we find ourselves. And so one of the first things I want to share with you all is that in order to build this community of care in our village, if we want to build this village of care, and we need to look at this blueprint, and in our blueprint, it needs to contain, first and foremost, a clear definition of what it means to be a part of this village. We need to know what it means to be part of this. Or as Terrell Strayhorn, or Dr. Terrell Strayhorn says in his research, the sense of belonging. What does it mean to belong in this community? Since I am a higher ed practitioner, I thought I'd incorporate a little bit of higher ed literature in this presentation. So Dr. Terrell Strayhorn, in his book, The College Student's Sense of Belonging, he says this statement, and I want to share it with you all. He says, in terms of college, sense of belonging refers to students' perceived social support on campus, a feeling or sensation of connectedness, an experience of mattering or feeling cared about, accepted, respected, valued by, and important to the campus community or others on campus, such as faculty, staff, and peers. And so that's very clear what it means to belong. There's social support, connectedness, experiencing experience of mattering or feeling cared about, accepted, respected, valued, and basically being made to feel important. Who doesn't want to feel important? My pastor, Galen Clark, shout out to PC here in Austin, Texas, says people walk around with a sign on their forehead and it says, "Make me feel like I matter." Make me feel like I matter. And one of the things that I take great pride in is making sure that every person in the village that I encounter, um, that they feel like no matter how brief or lengthy the interaction is, I want them to walk away feeling like their time was well spent, or that they felt valued, or that they matter. And so in your village, what does it mean to belong? What does it really mean to belong in your village? Or think about the groups that you spend a lot of time in. If you were welcoming someone new to your social circle, if you were introducing your a new person to your respective village, how would they know that they belong in your group? What does it look like to facilitate that, right? What does it look like to belong in the space that you find yourself in? And I want us to take some time to think about that, because if we're not careful, we not only will we not have a clear definition, then we'll just bounce around and uh, we won't have an identity. We won't really understand how to support anybody, because we don't know what that means for us. We won't have any connections because we'll think we're connecting, but what we're really doing is just networking. And I've already spoken at length to you all before about the difference between networking and connecting. And we focus on connecting in the village. And so we want people to feel like they matter. We want people to feel like they're cared about, but you got to have a very clear definition of what that means. And not only that, you want to make sure that everyone feels like they belong and are cared for. Now, this is challenging at work. This is challenging in some of our social circles because we don't necessarily believe in the product that we're selling. Pausing for dramatic effect. In order to make sure that people feel like they matter and they belong, everybody in the group has to believe in the group. They have to believe in this definition. There's buy-in in the group and in this village and in this space that we've created. We want to make sure that if we want everybody to feel like they belong, we've got to believe in what we're actually saying. If you work for an organization, if you work for a company and you're promoting a product or you're promoting a service or some goods and you don't believe in it, you're not a good representative of that organization. And as a result, that's going to impact your sales. That's going to impact your ability to reach people. And so it's going to be the exact same way when building connections. When we're talking to people, we need to make sure that we need to make sure we're talking in such a compelling way about our lives and about our experiences and about being a part of our group in such a way, or our village in such a way that people are like, man, I'm excited that I get to be a part of this. Thank you for welcoming me into this space. This is something that I want to add value to. Take a second and think about this. Have you ever worked for a place that people lied about the product they were selling? Have you ever been a part of a team or a work group or a committee or a social group, and it's like, man, it was all hype everybody made it seem like it was great on the outside, but then you joined it and you're like, this is what disrupts our companies and organizations. When we have sales and marketing and PR people that are trying to promote a product that they don't believe in. Friends, we've got to believe in the power of the village. We've got to show people how beautiful and rich and robust it is to be a part of an experience where it's like, man, I've got people that I can call on when I need help. I've got people that have seen me at my highest high and they're with me in the lowest of low valleys. That's what community is. That's what the village is all about. That's why I do this podcast. I don't do this for clicks and likes, although clicks and likes are very nice. right? At the same time, I'm doing this because I want people to connect again. I want people to realize that they're not in it alone. My friend Dr. Ryan Sutton, when he was the director of the Heman Sweat Center at the University of Texas at Austin, he always used to tell the young men that you're not in this alone. Because what people think is that, because nobody understands my experience, or you don't come from my neighborhood, or you don't come from my community. And so as a result, people are out there isolated and feeling like, man, there's no one that they can relate to or connect with. And that's not true. You're not in this alone, but we have to make sure that everybody feels like they belong and are cared for. And so you got to believe in the product that your village is selling. Otherwise, change the product. Now, here's the question for you to reflect on. How do people know? How do the members of the village know that they belong? How do they know? What does care look like in your respective village? What does it look like in your neighborhood when people show that they care for each other? What does it look like at your church when people are to promote belonging? What does it look like at your company or your organization or your school or your civic organization? Do the members of those groups feel like they belong? Or do they feel like outsiders? Do they feel ostracized? Do they feel judged? Do they feel criticized? Do they feel looked down upon? We all have to take that self-inventory or that self-assessment to determine whether or not we're really the village or the community we claim to be. And that goes for all of us. There's no names to call here. All of us have to take this self-assessment. Now, the other question you have to ask yourself is, how does the group show care for its members? One of the suggestions I have as part of this blueprint is that we need to be facilitators of connections or connecting activities. We want to connect people to other people. We want to connect people to other parts of the community. We want to connect people to the resources that they have demonstrated that they may have a need for. We want to be facilitators of connections. We don't want to be gatekeepers. We don't want to withhold invaluable information from people who could really, really, really benefit from it. If you've got a favorite HEB where you are, wherever you're listening from, I hope you have an HEB. If you don't, you are missing out. But HEB is one of the best grocery stores on the planet, in my opinion. Don't at me. Yes, I know Publix exists. Yes, I know Tom Thumb, Randall, Kroger, all of that. Ain't none of them sponsoring me. But HEB is my store of choice. And so when people move to Austin or come work for the university or join our church and they are moving from another city, one of the first things I recommend to them is that find your favorite HEB. And I don't tell them, don't come to mine or don't come to the one near where I live at or nothing like that. No, I share that resource. If I know someone who can help a particular individual make an adjustment in this neighborhood or in this community or at this church or part of this organization, I share that. And I want you all to do the same thing. Who are the people in your community? Who are the people in your village that have spoken up about a need that they have? And you're like, ooh, I know this person who does this, or I'm aware of this group that provides those resources. Share that information, because the more we put that out there, the better off our villages and our communities will be. And the last thing I want to share with you all is that we want to make sure that we're also facilitating or prioritizing what I'm calling socialization experiences. Orville Brim, in his research, socialization through life cycle, says, and it's talking about graduate students, but I think it applies here as well. It says graduate student socialization generally refers to the process by which individuals acquire the knowledge, skills, dispositions, and behaviors that make them effective members of a particular department, school, and or professional field to which they belong. I want to flip that and I want to apply it to the village. And again, remember, the village is not necessarily where you live, although that could be your respective village, but it's also how you show up in life. Who are the people that you do life with, that you share time and space with, who are able to pour into you and hold you accountable and lift you up and be with you when you're down? In your village, what are those socialization experiences? What are those moments where people can acquire the knowledge, the skills, if necessary, rather, the dispositions or the behaviors that make them part of your village? We all got our own customs and traditions in our families, at our schools, in our fraternities and sororities, in our church and civic organizations. But we need to prioritize those experiences, because it's through those experiences that people learn what it means to belong in this group, the culture of the group, and more importantly, in our village. What that does is that gives them an opportunity to get more acquainted with members of the village and learning the traditions and learning the rituals, if that's part of it, so that they can feel like they belong. And so if it's the neighborhood block party that happens once a year, or if it's the putting up Christmas lights, if it's the annual turkey trot in the neighborhood, if it's the family business meeting or the family reunion, all of those things absolutely matter. And so in this blueprint for community, if you don't remember anything else, remember, you want to establish a very clear definition of what it means to belong in your group. You want to make sure that everyone feels like they are cared for and that they belong. You want to make sure that you facilitate connections. And lastly, you want to make sure that, excuse me, that you prioritize socialization experiences. Listen, I hope you got something from this episode. If you did, why don't you leave me a comment on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this episode from. If you like this and you want more content like this, you got to let me know. You got to like it. You got to comment on it. You got to share it. That's the way that I know this was something that benefited you. And so until we talk again, please take care of yourselves and each other. Peace. God bless.